Hi, Robert Chuckrow here. I'm going to talk about anxiety and depression, which seem to be much more commonplace these days than before. And there's no one cause of anything, but there are some causes of depression and anxiety that with which I'm familiar. So one of the things that can cause depression is caffeine. And let's say you drink a cup of coffee, which has caffeine in it, especially brewed coffee as opposed to instant coffee. And now you have this immediate up and this immediate feeling of well-being and awakeness. And 5 hours later, you crash. And now what happens is you experience depression. Most people don't realize that because that 5 hour lag results in you not associating the two. But if you watch 5 hours after you have a cup of coffee and see how you feel, you might realize that your depression may be caused by the caffeine in the coffee or in other things. Another one is sugar. And we eat way too much sugar. We shouldn't be eating any sugar other than that in fruit. The sugar in fruit is fructose. And the sugar, all the other forms of sugar, are different. Fructose is immediately taken up by it's digested. It requires no digestion. It's immediately taken up into the bloodstream and processed by the liver into glycogen, which is stored in the muscles and in the liver, and also fat if there's more than can be stored. But if you eat other forms of sugar, they're digested, except for glucose, which needs no digestion. After digestion, all the forms of sugar other than fructose, become glucose. Now insulin is secreted by the pancreas, which takes up that sugar and turns it into glycogen. However, by overeating on sugar, also to a certain extent starches, we are making our insulin production overactive. That causes low blood sugar. One of the symptoms of low blood sugar is depression. And so that's a possible cause. And so cutting down on sugar should help. Eliminating all of it as much as possible, except for the sugar and fruit. And then, of course, not overeating on that either. Negative thinking is another one. And here is a process that I've seen over the decades that I was a student and then as a teacher. And it was only in more recent years that I understood what was going on. And that is as follows. Let's say a student is studying for a test and starts to think, am I going to be able to learn this stuff? Am I going to be able to pass this test? If I don't pass the test, I may not get into college. And if I don't get into college, I may not get a good job. And then it goes to, and I won't find a spouse. And then I'll be on the street and I won't be able to have any children. And it goes on and on and on, the thinking. And when you do that kind of thing, whatever it is, in any modality, you can be worrying about anything. What you're doing is programming into your subconscious mind a belief system in that's going to happen. That's going to come back to roost as anxiety. So now when a student is studying for a test, the student from that kind of thinking is going to have anxiety. The anxiety will paralyze the student's ability to learn. And now, or maybe make the student not even want to study because of that bad feeling of having that worry and that resulting anxiety. Now what happens is they don't study for the test sufficiently. Then they have anxiety during the test, which limits their ability to process. Now they don't do as well. So it becomes a vicious cycle, and it can get worse and worse. So the way to eliminate that is to go to the root cause, which is our thinking. And when we see when we have a negative thought of anything in any area, we have to push it aside. Just see things as they are, not in this negative way. And it doesn't mean you have to go to the other extreme and say, oh, I know I'm going to ace this test. That may not happen either. But just eliminating the negative thinking will help. Now what happens is if the anxiety is prolonged, the person is disabled to a certain degree in doing things that need to be done. Now you start to get this awareness, this deep down awareness that you haven't fulfilled your responsibility to yourself. And now what happens is that becomes instated as a feeling of depression. And the depression can, if it continues on long enough, becomes apathy, meaning I don't care, just don't care anymore, because you have no way of getting rid of it. But the root cause of it is the thinking, or can be. Another problem that causes depression is, or a cause of depression is lack of sunlight. And I watched a video many years ago of this guy who was depressed all his life. He even carried a gun with him so he could kill himself if it got bad enough. He didn't do that. But finally they said, well, we're going to try something. And they put him in this room to sleep, where in the morning as the sun came up, the lights went on to full brightness, as if he were in sunlight, and did this for a week. And at the end of the week they interviewed him, and he was just amazed. He said, I don't even remember what it was like to be depressed. I feel so good. And there are a lot of people who are not getting enough sunlight, especially in the morning. And what they say is 15 minutes in the morning. But I think it can be less. But going outside, it can be through a window, and getting that morning sun, very important. That can make a difference. Another one can be different syndromes. Lyme disease is one that can cause depression and anxiety. COVID is another cause, especially the continuing effects of it after the main symptoms disappear. And another cause can be even possibly the vaccinations, which are a minor cause, like giving the person a minor case of COVID. Another way of helping depression and anxiety is doing deep breathing. Deep breathing is of tremendous value, and we don't get enough oxygen, and not enough oxygen can cause can cause depression. Fasting is very valuable, extremely valuable. I have some experience with it. I fast for a good half a day every day. In other words, I don't eat until late afternoon. And I also have, every time I'm sick, I fast until I'm well. And I have gone on 2 long fasts of each one approximately a month, a little less than a month. And I have an article on therapeutic fasting on my website. I'll put a link in my description. And fasting can be a very valuable thing, not only for helping the body cleanse itself, but the brain cleanse itself, the neurological system cleansing itself. And so we can make up for a lack of oxygen by deep breathing is another one. They've done experiments with people who are depressed, and they go out in the morning and stand near trees where we're getting the morning oxygen. But we can just make up for that by practicing breathing more fully, exhaling more completely, get rid of the bad, breathe in as much as possible of the good. So those are some possibilities. There may be more, but those are ones that I'm familiar with. Thank you.